So I do like that line of thinking of, let's think about like what are the misconceptions they can hit in the text, and then let's look at the read for deeper meaning and the TDQs and think about the misconceptions they'll hit in the, based off the questions.
So what things can I do?
So we know that like language features and knowledge demands are gonna be the trickiest. Here's the cheat sheet. On the very last page I gave you, which mine, I didn't steal mine, so no matter all out of order.
Do you want to steal one?
No.
Okay. Here, scaffolding resource?
Yes.
Okay.
So looking at like the knowledge demands one.
This, I mean, I think that the pausing
Yeah.
frequently for students, because my thought was because, but I don't know, I'm jumping around a little bit.
That's okay, keep jumping around.
But I think that,
Or you're thinking during the gist read.
yes.
That's what I'm thinking too.
I think it's not saying anywhere, but I do think, like, to Lauren's point, if it's complex in language, that maybe it should be read aloud the first time, because they're gonna be doing a lot of heavy lifting with the deeper meaning read anyway. I don't know. I'm open to suggestions on that.
Yeah.
It's also a lot to be reading solo. I could also,
It is.
I could also,
Ooh, mixing it up.
yeah, I was gonna say, I could also make a case for them doing, you know what I mean, like one being read aloud,
Yeah.
one being with a partner, one being by themselves.
I like that.
Just to like mix it up too, because otherwise.
I think that's a good release too here. I know they're gonna be building different kinds of background knowledge in each story, but in terms of like looking at the language and knowing that like vocabulary is gonna be tricky, but also the standard is to understand tricky vocabulary, that it could be okay that if they struggle a little bit with some language. But I love that idea of the gradual, of like the release.
Okay, so hypnos, read aloud, and like stamp the central idea together, and that way they practice doing that.
Yeah, do it as a turn and talk. I love that.
And then partner read for Grace's.
Do you want them to write?
Yes.
I think so too.
I think I'll do turn and talk, to share out, and then write.
Oh, I love that.
And that way we're not
Turn
writing
and
about
talk.
the wrong thing.
Share. Right.
And then uses silent solo. And the same routine of turn and talk, share, and then write. Although I guess
Turn and
they
talk,
might be writing as they go.
And then share. Yeah.
Yeah.
I might have. I actually would push for the last one to say turn and talk, write, then share.
Okay.
Because if they get a chance to talk through their ideas, that's always like such a strong scaffold.
Sure.
And then if it's still not right, stamp it in the share and move on.
Okay.
I think too, when it comes to the partner read and silent and solo, in terms of like rapid feedback, progress monitoring, giving feedback, knowing where to chunk it for kids is going to be your best bet.
Yeah.
To keep kids from totally misunderstanding the text. Is that going to make sense?
It does. I don't know
What the chunks are.
That's the
Yeah, I'm
problem.
kinda with you.
Is
Because
so
they're so
because I think
small.
that right. Well, and also it's fiction, and like, or it's organized as a fiction text. So I do feel like too that it really is mostly about like what are we learning through the character. So I think like giving that frame ahead of time of what did Hypnos teach us or teach the reader. What did the Graces teach the reader? What did the Muses teach the reader?
I don't think Hypnos is one that's, I think you should read that one contiguously.
Yeah.
That one, I'm not, because it's more of a story than Graces and Muses.
Sure.
Whereas Graces and Muses, at least just looking at it, like it's about when they're little, and then this really is more explaining the role that they played once they were grown up goddesses or whatever. Goddesses at age.
So what prompt should I give them after they've?
I think it's back to what you were saying. Like, what do you know about the Muses when they were little? What do you know about the Muses based off this page.
Okay.
So I think your prompts are right.
Okay.
I think you just split. I think it's just
Okay.
for muses, it's an even split. This page, this page.
Gotcha.
So if you're noticing kids are stuck, I don't anticipate them getting
No.
totally stuck. I think the biggest thing for them is going to be stamina. Similarly with like Grace's, honestly what's tricky about the Grace's text is they're going to not return to the last page. I know
Yeah.
it's silly, but like there's a good introduction to who the Graces are. We get a little vignette about the Graces with Venus.
Right.
And it's kind of like wrapped up there on that page.
Yeah, I feel like, well, that's the thing about myths, is they always have like a conclusion.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. The prompt for Graces might be like it's this last sentence. Like they need to read that last sentence. It is no wonder their name came to mean all things charming and elegant. What did their name come to mean? Yeah. So what does their name mean? But that's getting to the read for deeper meaning. So I don't know.
No, I mean, I think that it's also, I also think that needs to be their takeaway for the read for gist. Because it says it right there in the text, like it is
says
very
it
literal.
right there. What is their name? What did their name come to mean? Yeah. What do you know about the Graces? What did the Graces do?
Good news is they're doing that with a partner, so.
Yeah,
I do
exactly.
think that that's.
What do you know about the Graces? I think what do you know about the Muses? What do you know about the Graces? Those are your back pocket questions for the gist.
Okay.
That I think lends itself just fine. Stop recording. Okay, great. Okay. We have our gist read. Let's take a look at the read for deeper meaning. We started to talk about this because I can't do anything in order and always jump around.
Sure.
Sorry.
That's how I do it too.
Okay, so tell me again I loved your instructions. Tell me again what were your instructions?
Okay, so, let's see. I guess the first step would be identifying like which one it came from. So the
Yeah.
first two are from the Graces, and then we have Hypnos and Muses. And that can just be a really quick call out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what do we learn?
About the characters.
Or what do we know about the characters?
Yeah.
And so like Graces is where we spend most of our time.
Great.
And honestly, once they've written down what they learned about it in the first one, it's the same for the second. That people were fond of the Graces, all things charming and elegant, that they dressed in clothes or clothed Venus with goodness, that their
Which is-
presence enhanced everyone's beauty.
I'm sorry to interrupt
No, you're
you,
fine.
but isn't it interesting that they use the Roman name? Because Aphrodite is the Greek
Oh,
name.
we do. You're right. We do bounce back and forth.
I know Gifts from the Gods does go back and forth from Greek and Roman.
It does, yeah. It says heroes and humans in Greek and Roman myths. So
Yeah.
I think we're just
Very interesting.
mixing it up.
Yeah. Which might be a
Maybe they
knowledge
rub up.
thing to like could be a fun fact at the end or at the beginning of the launch if you want to name like different gods actually have different names. Like there's that also might confuse them at the beginning. So maybe at the end.
I'll kind of have a fun fact at the end.
Right. Knowing that knowledge and language are going to be the two trickiest pieces here, what are your thoughts for kids when they get stuck?
I think just like what did the Graces do?
Yeah.
Like just like really literal, like go back in the text, what did they do? And they're gonna be like, well, they're in the ocean. Okay, stop. What did they do in the ocean?
Yeah.
And then them going back and saying, oh, what is it? They rubbed her body with scented ointments and clothed her with silken garments. On her head they placed finally. Where is it?
Next page.
Maybe. I don't know where I got that detail.
What detail?
I was the one that I wrote down. Dressed and clothed Venus with goodness.
Well, they dressed and clothed her.
Yeah. I don't know where goodness came from. But they were elegant, that they were charming. Maybe just like
They made her lovely.
give
they
character
made her
traits. Yeah, give character traits to explain the graces.
Yeah, when I think back to like the Wheatley Collaborative and the thinking here, are we referring them to the text or are we referring them to a thinking step?
To the text.
I think it's a text.
Because I mean, there's so many details that show who they are. The entire myth defines who they are.
Right. Right.
So I think it's just like listing it, like what are the things that they do.
Though I do think if kids are getting stuck and they're only doing one or the other, then it is a thinking step. It is, okay, you've told me the meaning of the word. Where did you get that meaning from? Go back to the text and tell me about the graces. Or if they're telling you about the graces, okay, now that you know who the graces are, think about the word gracious. What does it mean? Yeah. So because there is two-step thinking here, and that's where breakdown can get tricky. Right. Or thinking can get tricky. So, but I think that if you know, like, those are the two steps they have to do in order to define gracious. I think that'll help in terms of like pushing kids to do the full thinking and not one-sided thinking. Remember, you're not just telling me who the gods are, you're also telling me the meaning of the word. Or, remember, you're not just telling me the meaning of the word, you have to tell me where the meaning came from in this story. Yeah. Great. I don't think there's any additional scaffolding we need to do.
I don't think so either. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's straightforward, but because I think you adjusted it. Like, you made the right adjustments.
Oh, thank you.
Here, so that was really, really clever. Okay, what are you thinking about in terms of like ratio here? So like, how much are you gonna do? How much are you gonna have kids do?
With reread?
Yeah, with the read for deeper meaning.
I typically do, especially when it's a new skill, with a partner.
Yep, I think partner work would be great here.
Just to, and they handle partner reads really well, because then everything back here is going to be silent so well. So yeah, I think working with a partner, and then if I'm seeing that we're confused, redirecting individuals, individual groups. Yep. And if the team's confused, stopping and going back and rereading a section.
I think there's a good opportunity here to model if you want. Yeah. I like the idea to like model with mop-up because the one that you could model is gracious, and then let them do grateful, hypnos, and musical.
That's very true.
On their own, like because there's two for graces. Yeah. I think there's a pretty solid opportunity. Yeah. So I think if you are seeing enough kids get stuck, my push for you is to model with gracious. Okay. Yeah. And model, because what I really do think is going to happen is they're going to do one piece of the thinking and not the other.
I agree. Yeah.
So model. Watch how I go into the text, jot down everything I know about the graces, and then think, what does gracious mean? Yeah. Well, I'm noticing, and then write your definition and say, now go do it for the next three.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I like that plan. Especially because it is a new skill. It's the first time seeing the standard. Yeah. And they're gonna do it again tomorrow. So yeah. So cool. Let's look at the TDQs and see how the TDQs,
they're a little, 2 is that's basically the exact same thing that they're doing at
the exit ticket. Wow, it really is basically the exit ticket. 2, and then 3 does the same, similar kind of thinking. I think for 2 and 3, knowing it tells them they're going to text if they don't get it.
Right. I think it's like you said before, it's just like making sure that they have all those pieces there. Like, okay, you need to define the word, then you need to say what clues you use, and then you need to say how it relates to the graces. Yes. Like, you have to bridge all the thinking.
Well, that's great that you have that then, because those are like the 3 things you could monitor for. Did you tell me what the word means? Right. Did you tell me how it relates to the text or relates to the character?
100% is the first one.
Great.
2 is define the word. Lap 3 is what clues were used, and then lap 4 is how does it relate to the graces.
Great. So tell me what you would look for what clues did you use? Oh, I'm sorry. That's because I'm not reading my answer.
Honestly, any of the clues they used in the deeper meaning.
No one was
would be-
jealous of the
Yeah,
graces.
yeah.
So they were helpful and sweet.
Right.
Okay, so which means the graces, which means
because it really only has clues.
it's all clues, which is where I think, again, it can get tricky. Kids are gonna be like, it's too obvious of an answer, you know?
It's not.
No, that's the answer I'm looking for. Okay, cool.
Yep.
The next piece is practice, and I'm not gonna record that. So,
It's like, yeah, so it is.
and it's time to go. Yes.